Hey guys, Jen here. Just gonna give everyone a couple minutes to join. If you're here, say hi on the comments so that I can see that you're here. And let's see, how do I bring the comments up on the thing? Oops. Don't want to filter. All right, well, apparently I can't figure out how to do it. So anyway, welcome to the live stream. Hey Lisa, how are ya? Let's see. Oh, there's comments. Okay. Anyway, so welcome to the live stream, and I am going to tell you how I sold 2,300 books in a 31-day period. It was actually 2312, the number officially. But anyway, if you have questions, put them in the comment box, and I will make sure to answer them probably at the end of the call or the end of the video, just so that I can get through everything. I may check them out as I go, but I will definitely answer them all at the end. All right, so the 7 things I'm going to tell you about today are going to be things you probably either haven't heard people say before or you probably didn't associate with marketing. But these are definitely things that have made a big difference for me in selling books every month and gotten me to a place where I'm now selling at least 1,000 a month on average, usually more than that. And I've had a month where I've made, a lot more sales. And so I'm going to tell you exactly what I did that month. So, okay, the very first thing is get into alignment. So what that means is the things that you're saying, doing, thinking, and the things that you believe are all in alignment with the goals that you have. So at the beginning of this year, I realized that I've been dreaming about being a best-selling author. I was dreaming about selling all these books and having this big writing career. But the problem was I wasn't actually doing things that were aligned with those goals. So I was saying it, but then I wasn't writing every day, or I wasn't putting more books out there, even though I had tons of them in my head. And I wasn't actually, in the habit of writing and of doing it on a consistent basis. So for me, saying that I wanted to be a best-selling author and then looking at the way I was acting every day and the way I was actually living my writing life were not matching up. And so for that reason, I realized that if I wanted to be this author, if I wanted to be an author who sells a lot of books, who, is a bestseller and all of that, I had to get into alignment with the goals that I have. So the biggest thing I would say for you is think about where you want to go with your writing career. And then ask yourself, am I doing things that match up with that goal? So, for example, if you want to be a best-selling author, but you believe things like it's not possible, or it's too hard, or only traditionally published authors hit the bestseller lists, or whatever, well, those are going to be limiting beliefs or negative things that are going to stop you from taking the actions you need to take to actually get to that point where you are a bestseller. So get yourself into alignment with the goals that you have. And when you do that, you'll start to see that taking action becomes a lot easier. So for me, when I finally revamped my writing habits, got to a place where I was finally writing every day, making it a priority, not making excuses anymore, that's when things started to just explode for me in my writing life. So I started writing more books and publishing more books, and then of course from there selling more books. So get into alignment, super important, number 1. All right, the second thing is you need to have an I sell books mindset. So this is important too because mindset is the core of everything. So this is something that I've always known and always believed my whole life, which is you can create anything you set your mind to. And you've probably heard people say that and maybe even experienced it in your own life if you look back on successes and things that you've done. It's always about you made the decision to make it happen. It's always about you decided it was going to happen. You were going to do the work and you were in it for, the long haul until you were making it happen. So when you decide things like that, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. And so the mindset of selling books is almost as important as the actions you take to sell the books. So you have to believe that you are an author who sells books. And I know this is hard because in the writing industry, which is very sad and something that I'm working very hard to change, is that writers mostly think things like it's hard to sell books and being an author is hard and it's a pipe dream and you can't make a living as a published author and just all these negative things writers believe about being a writer. And of course maybe that was true back when people were doing traditional publishing only and self-publishing was either not an option or so expensive that it wasn't even in the realm of something you could afford, to now you are in the digital age and places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and having e-readers has pretty much flattened the industry in a way that gives you access to people all over the world. So you're no longer just selling books to people who shop at the Barnes & Noble on Fifth Avenue in New York City, or you're not only selling books to people who shop at that bookstore on the corner down the street from you that no one's ever heard of before. You're selling books to the whole world. And so by having that mindset of, I can do this, it's easy, selling books is easy, you will start to sell books, which I know sounds crazy, but the thing is, when you get your mind in that place where you believe it and you can just know that it's going to happen, it will start to happen. It's like magic. I know it sounds crazy, but that's sort of how the universe works. It's all about your thoughts. It's about the things you decide you're going to make happen and the things you want to see, and you create that by the things that you think and the beliefs that you tell yourself. So in the beginning of this year, I started writing 2 statements in my journal every single day. So this was in February. I wrote, I'm a best-selling author. I wrote that every single day for months. And then I also wrote, I sell thousands of books every single month. Every day I was writing those 2 things out in my journal, along with a bunch of other statements. And it became true. So over those months, it started to just happen. And all of a sudden, I put a new book out there. It hit number 1 on Amazon. All of a sudden, I started selling all these books. I mean, it was crazy, but that's just the power of your mind. And it's more to it than that, which I'm going to go through some other things. But I do the mindset stuff first and the alignment stuff first, because honestly, if you don't have those things, the rest of the stuff I tell you isn't even going to matter, because alignment and mindset are those things that are foundational. They are absolutely the bottom line when it comes to being successful in anything, no matter what it is that you're doing, writing or otherwise. All right, so the third thing that I did was that I published multiple books. So at that point when I sold 2,300 books in that month, it was because I'd had all these other books out there too. So I didn't just have one book available for people to buy. I had several. And at that point, I believe that was my 7th book. So it was easy to see like, oh, if someone bought that, then they were interested in other books too. And so by having several books out there, it actually made it easier for me to make more sales. Now, if you're just starting out and you only have one book out there, that's fine. You do have to put some marketing effort into that. But I would also highly recommend that you take time to write and publish another book, and as soon as you can, because by having multiple books, you actually give yourself more leverage. Because think about this. If someone comes to you, loves your book, reads it, is super excited about it, and then goes back to see you have nothing else available for them to read, well, then what? Well, they're going to go find some other author to read from. And by the time you do have a book out, they're not going to remember who you are. And so you need to think about that. And so keep that balance of, I'm marketing my book that I do have out there, but I'm also working on my next one and getting that one out there too. Because multiple books, I believe, is what helped me to finally get to this point where I'm selling 1,000+ books a month. So I had, 5, 6 books earlier this year, then I hit 7, and then I had that month where I sold 2,312 books. So it just really became a matter of, okay, I have multiple books now, and that's what's making a difference. Okay, the 4th thing is, and this probably is the key to marketing online, or any kind of marketing in general, but definitely online, and that is build relationships with readers, with people in your industry, with people in your genre, so other writers or editors in that genre, whoever. Build relationships, because that is the key to marketing success. And when you have relationships with people, you get to connect with people that they know, or they might think of you for an opportunity for something. So I started guest posting in 2009. I started writing blog posts for other people's blogs and putting, a bio that links back to my stuff, but really just using other people's audiences to get my content out there. And so by doing that so much, I've built up a connection with a whole bunch of people in the writing industry. And so because of that, they think of me when they're doing things that relate to authors and writing books. So for example, in July, which is when I sold 2,300 books, I had gotten contacted a few weeks prior from a couple of people that I had worked with, just written blog posts for them and known them in the industry for a while. And they said, hey, we're doing this book promo. We're going to have 9 authors, 99 cents for each of the books, and we're all going to promote it on the same day, July 9th, I believe it was. They're like, are you in? And so I was like, hell yeah, definitely I'm in, because number one, all of those people were authors and their audiences were writers, which are people who are my audience. So for me, it was a perfect fit to have my book in front of them. And that, again, is another thing to think about when it comes to doing marketing and stuff is, am I getting in front of the right audience? Because you can market your book for, as much as you want, but if you're not in front of the right audience, you're not going to make sales. So for me, I knew that was a definite yes. I mean, obviously was able to get in front of the right people. And so from that one little promo that I did for that one day with 8 other authors, I sold, I think it was almost 800 books from that. So that week I had about 805 sales or something. So that made a huge chunk of my, 2,312 books for the month of July. And so that was really a big part of it. But it was building those connections and those relationships, because when you do that, people think about you and they think, oh, what about that, author I talked to who has a similar book to me or sells, to the same audience or whatever. So be thinking about how you can build relationships. Can you do guest posts? So think about, are there people in your industry that you would like to write for? think about, can you connect with other, bloggers who write the same type of fiction as you do, or reviewers who review your type of fiction, connect with them. These are the kinds of things you want to be doing, because when you do that, you're going to sell books. And relationships are the core of marketing. It's just, that's just how it is. Because if you think about this, and think about any book you've purchased besides a one-off book that maybe you saw at a bookstore and it just really jumped out at you, most of the time you're buying books from people that you have either followed, have had some sort of an interest in, have known a little bit about, have met before, etc. So it's always about, you knew them a little bit, or you had some sort of a connection or tie-in or relationship with them, and that's what inspired you to buy the book when they said, hey guys, I have a new book out. So big, big, big deal. Build relationships, connect with people in your genre, in your industry, and you will start to sell books. All right, so the fifth thing that I did was I launched a new book. So like I said, this goes back to having multiple books, but that month I actually launched a brand new book. So not only did I have the audience from all those other authors who are promoting for me, but I also had been able to go to my own audience, people who had purchased books from me before, and say, hey guys, I have a new book. So this brought in an additional audience, because the people who already owned my books were able to buy too. So it added to the amount of books I was selling. And then on top of that, because I had the promo going on, people bought, the one book, and then were buying other ones on top of that. And of course, that's also the month that one of my books hit number one on Amazon, because when you sell that many in a month, usually you can hit number one on your category, depending on, how competitive it is. So that was sort of how that all happened for me. But launching the new book made a big difference, because you can sort of go through a launch process and you can sort of build up excitement for it. And then people who have already purchased books from you can now buy something new. So that just adds to the sales. All right, the sixth thing that I did was I charged 99 cents. So I know this sounds crazy, and a lot of authors have, an issue with charging that much for their books, because they feel like they work so hard, they spent so much money putting the book together and getting it edited and all that, and they don't want to just make 35% of that royalty from Amazon. The reason I recommend doing it anyway is because, number one, if people don't know you, 99 cents is a low enough threshold for them to take a chance, because everybody has wasted $1 before. No one, feels like, oh, they can say they've never ever wasted a single dollar. Most people have wasted more than that. So $1 isn't that big a deal to people most of the time. So they think, oh, I'll try that new book. If the book's $3, $4, $5, well, now they're going to think more about it, because that's more money for them. So 99 cents makes a huge difference in being able to sell books, because people see that and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can give that a chance. That's no big deal. It's only $1. So I was testing the strategy out. I price my books all different ways. So sometimes I have, all of them at 99 cents. Sometimes I only have a few of them and the rest are $2.99. I play with the strategy and just sort of see, how many sales do I make month to month based on changing the prices. And honestly, it hasn't made that big of a difference to change all the prices to go a little bit higher if I have some that are also 99 cents. So starting out, if you're brand new, if you only have one book, think about making at least your digital version 99 cents, because there is something to that. And then a lot of times if Amazon has like a promo about 99-cent books, or if they see people looking at other 99-cent books, they may share yours with them and say, hey, here's another one, that's 99 cents too. So it's just a strategy. That's something you can play around with. You can literally change the price of your book in 2 seconds on Amazon anytime you want to. So if you try it out for a week and you feel like it's not working, or you're concerned about the, not getting enough royalty, then just go back to a higher price. But give it a try, because you just never really know. And so for me, my book was 99 cents during that promo, and then I kept it there the rest of the month. So that's why I think I was able to sell so many more books. All right, and then the fifth thing, and this goes back to another foundational thing, which is build momentum. So I have been online since 2008. I've been, writing books since 2010 and publishing books since then as well. And it just got to a point where, I've got momentum. So I've got enough of a following now. I have readers. I've got a good email list that I sell books because of that. So I've built up a following. I've built up a readership by doing all the things that I've been doing online for the last 8+ years. And so by having that momentum, you sort of get to a point, I feel like, it's like a roller coaster. You're climbing up and it feels slow, but then all of a sudden it just becomes momentum and it just sort of goes downhill and everything starts just being easier. And that's sort of how I feel happened to me this year, was just I got to that point where I had sort of built enough momentum and built enough of a following that now my books just sort of are selling themselves. So again, these are not things you can do right now to start selling 1 million books tomorrow. That's not the idea of online marketing. And honestly, If that's the kind of thing you're looking for, you're not in the right place, because that's not how marketing works. And especially with book marketing, if you just want to sell a few books and make some money and then get out of it, you're probably not really in it for the right reasons. And so you should think about maybe doing something else. This is the long-term, I'm in this for the long haul, I'm going to do this the rest of my life book marketing strategy. And yes, it does take time. It doesn't have to take you 8 years. I mean, I definitely got to this point slowly because I did it on my own. I didn't really hire anyone to help me really. And so I was to a point where I had to learn everything myself and master it all myself. And so it took longer. But now that I know how to do it all, I could easily, come up with a brand new business idea or a brand new blog and make it much more successful, much quicker, because now I know what to do. So these are the tips that I'm sharing with you to sort of help you get to that place so you can have momentum and you can have the success that you've been dreaming of having. So if anyone has questions, put them in the chat box now and I will answer them for you. And then I'm going to wrap this up. All right, Lisa, can you offer tips on me coming up with multiple book ideas? I have ideas for nonfiction, but I doubt I could fill enough for a book. Okay, well, first of all, I don't think that a book has to be a certain length. And I think that might be the block that you're experiencing with this is, well, I don't have enough to say on that topic. Some of my books are really short. Some are 36 pages. Some are 118 pages. They're not 300-page books. But the thing is, I'm okay with that because I'm giving people the most important information. I'm giving them absolutely what they need to know to take action and to, actually use the information I'm giving them. And I'm not giving them fluff. I'm not adding a bunch of crap in there just to make it longer or to fit, society or book industry standards of what's considered a book. I don't give a fuck about that stuff. I just know that I'm going to write what needs to be written. And when I'm feeling like it's done, it's done. That's it. So think about the ideas you have and don't worry about the length. It's more about what you're putting into the book and not about how long it is. The other thing is I think there is going to start being a trend in shorter books. And this is just from my experience with my own books. The book I've had the most success with as far as book sales, as far as getting reviews without asking for them, was my book called The 15-Minute Writer. And that book is like 36 pages. And it gets the most reviews. At this point, I think it has like 41 reviews on Amazon. I didn't ask for any of those. People just started reviewing it because I think the book was so short that they actually saw that they got one result. It didn't focus on, 15 different things it's going to help you do. It just picked one thing. It's going to help you start writing in 15 minutes a day. That's it. That's the promise I made for the book. That was the result that I guaranteed I was going to deliver to people. And that's what I did. So not only is the book short enough now, but they get the result. They can actually act on it. And then it made them inspired to go back and leave a review because it worked for them. So because it was so short, because it focused on just one result, as opposed to, the books that are 500 pages and there's like 10 things you're supposed to get from it. Well, that's great. But the problem is, do most people either finish reading those books or actually work through all the stuff in them? Probably not. So there really is something to those, shorter books that are more just focused on one thing. And then from there, it's like, oh, there's another book on a different topic. So you're actually having multiple books and not having one book that has all the results in one place. I don't know. That's just me. The other thing is with digital, I feel like most people are looking for something short and sweet because we're busy, they don't have a lot of time, and they're reading on a digital, either a Kindle or a Nook or whatever. It gets kind of messy with the eyes and annoying and all that. So I feel like the short and sweet kind of makes it easier for people. And then Amazon actually has categories now for books that are less than 2 hours to read, or that are less than 45 minutes to read, or that have only, between 20 and 40 pages, or 50 and 58 pages, or whatever. So they actually have these categories now for books like that. And people are going there and looking for things that are short and sweet. So that would be my recommendation with finding more ideas and not really letting go of the definition of what you think a book is, because I really feel like the book industry is going to start shifting in the direction of short and sweet sometime. And I'm not saying there won't be longer books. There always will be. There's always going to be a bunch of everything. But I think that there is starting to be a trend in short and sweet. And I think that that's why my books have been really successful. So definitely give that a try. All right. If anyone has any other questions, the last chance to put them in the comments. And if you're watching this as a replay, I'll be checking back on it and I'll answer your questions if you have any other ones. So but if you want to start selling more books, if you want to learn how to do marketing the right way, and I will say the right way, this is not, for people who want to sell books in 5 minutes and then move on to something else. This is for people who are in it for the long haul, who want to actually create a writing career where you sustainably sell books every single month on a consistent basis. And of course, growing and growing from there. So if you want to check that out, I have a masterclass coming up next Wednesday. It's called Sell More Books. It's going to explain everything you need to know about the foundations of book marketing online and everything you need to know to start marketing your books and selling more of them. So you can check that out at jenniferblanchard.net/sellmorebooks. And I see another question. I know it's probably best to stick with one audience, but I have ideas for books that would be for other audiences. Is it best at first to become the expert in one thing? And how do you, as a multi-potentialite, stay focused? Wow, okay, that is a great question. Okay, so I would say at first it doesn't hurt to write multiple books for the same audience. And that's only because, again, people who come to you for that first book are going to want more. And so by having other books for that same audience, it's going to help with making more sales. That's not to say you can't write for a different audience. You totally can. And you just sort of keep that separate as far as like it's another category, it's another way of marketing. So you sort of just have to balance the different ways. I mean, the other thing is you're the author. So really that ties everything together and sort of becomes like the umbrella over the book marketing is that it's you're the author. But if you're talking like fiction, nonfiction, I would definitely keep the marketing separate on that because obviously a fiction reader is looking for something totally different than a nonfiction reader is looking for. So the marketing is similar as far as like the relationship building and all that stuff, but as far as like the actual tactics, they will be different. And I would definitely be explaining all of those in this masterclass. Is it better to become the expert in one thing? That right there, I would say is up to you. So there is definitely something to being an authority. There's actually a course, I forgot the name. I think it's called Authority Publishing or Authority Publication or something, but it's this group of people who teach writers how to become the expert in one topic and then write, 50 books on that one topic. And so what ends up happening is they become the authority in that niche. And then of course they get speaking engagements from it, additional workshops or products that they create from it. And it sort of all just goes from there. So there is something to being an authority. And I would say my books pretty much all fit into the authorship category, except for my fiction, obviously. So in that way, I sort of am focusing on one thing. And as a multi-potentialite, I feel like my books, even though they are for one audience, they don't really limit me because I write about whatever I want. I write about productivity. I write about mindset. I write about creativity. I write about getting writing done. And I write about, pretty much anything I want to write about. But it all fits in that same audience of writers. So think about how you can sort of bring in those other things you want to write about and still write it for that same audience. Maybe there's a way to do that. Now, the other thing is I've been thinking about writing books, sort of more life-based books. So instead of just for writers, it would be for people who want to improve their life, maybe their mindset or their goals and all that stuff. So in that case, it would be a different category, but it would really still be expertise on the same topics, which is productivity and, making stuff happen, mindset and all of that. So I feel like it still ties together. And I think that writing books is a great way to explore all of your passions and not have to limit yourself. All right. So any more questions, put them in the comments now. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. And if you want to learn how to sell more books, be sure to check out my masterclass that's happening next Wednesday, the 23rd of November, 3 p.m. Eastern. It will all be recorded. So if you can't be there live, it's totally cool. I'm going to record everything. And there's some pretty cool bonuses that go along with it, including access to a $300 e-course that I created. You can go to jenniferblanchard.net/sellmorebooks to check it out. I will catch you next time.